Hi guys, spoilers ahead for the Shawshank Redemption. Hi there everybody, welcome to another episode of Screenwriters Rewatch, a series where we venture into IMDb's top 200 film list, pull out some classics and see whether they stack up. But before we get going, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Check out our previous episodes on Spotify, YouTube, all of those places. And you can always pop over to our website as well to see what's going on with our global network of screenwriters. Keep your eyes peeled. At the end of this episode as well, we'll be revealing what we're going to be talking about on the next episode too. So that's exciting. Today, I'm joined by Brad. Hi, Brad.
Hello.
As we throw a rock through a poster, delve through a river of nastiness, and come out clean on the other side as we rewatch IMDb's number one film of all time. It is, of course, The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed. It is, of course, The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed by Frank Darabont. So, yeah, Brad. Hey, man.
Hey.
Good. Usually we'll find out at the end. We'll do the, do you think we can put it in the vaults? Do you think we can put it in the script department vaults, which we now have? I've decided we have vaults now. It's fun.
That's good.
It's good. Everyone's got to have a vault, you know. Or perhaps it's in this case it's actually a safe behind a Bible quote. Maybe that'd be more fitting for this particular
Quite
film.
fitting, yeah.
But we're also gonna have a look and see whether we think it deserves the IMDb number one spot, because that is high praise, beating The Godfather out for that high spot there. So we'll come to that conclusion at the end. But just for now, I'll ask you a much simpler question: what are you bringing with you to this rewatch? What kind of baggage do you have? What kind of preconceptions do you bring with you on this occasion?
So I missed this at the cinema the first time round, as almost everybody did. Like, I was 13 or something, and I went to my local cinema and I watched Forrest Gump, which
Nice.
it was great when I watched it, but I don't know. I've rewatched it not too long ago. It wasn't a Shawshank for me.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I liked it, but I think the constant rewatchings, it sort of loses a bit of its magic somehow.
I see that.
Same month or after the same couple of months, I tried to sneak into Pulp Fiction and got kicked out of the cinema because I was 13, and I was too young to see this. So, but I didn't even know it existed. I think the first time I watched it was on VHS tape. You remember those
Really?
good old fashioned VHSs from Blockbuster or something like that, or on Apollo Video? Who neither of them exist anymore.
No.
But yeah, I watched it on a videotape, and I remember thinking how amazing it was. But I didn't understand where it was from. I didn't understand it was made in the same year as Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction. I thought it was a film that someone had suggested that was made years ago, because obviously it's set in the 40s and 50s and 60s anyway. But it was, I mean, it was in a real weird time of movies, like some big, massive films. Like the year before was Schindler's List and like Jurassic Park, and the year after it was like Usual Suspects and Apollo 13, and it's just
big hitters surrounding it.
Massive films, and it got slightly hidden by those, and like, you know. It just about made a profit, but then I think there was another re-release and all sorts of stuff that happened in the 90s to sort of make a bit more money out of it after it had an Oscar run. It didn't win anything, but it
was there, and it is one of those things that's surprising looking back on it, because I actually didn't see this until my undergrad, and I was studying acting at the time, and my now wife said to me, "Oh, like the Shawshank Redemption." I went, "I'm sorry, what are you talking about?" She her face falls, and you have this whole thing. So I also came to this pretty late, and it is one of those things that I think it benefits for me. I think it benefits from not having been constantly rewatched, and I've come to this only a few times, and so it still holds that magic that perhaps Forrest Gump has lost. We'll do Forrest Gump another day. That's a really good idea, actually. We'll look at Forrest Gump on another one of these, But yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things where, because I haven't watched this for a long time, we watch Family Guy all the time, and so I found actually one of my big problems was trying to separate the Family Guy jokes from
Yes.
in the midst of not after breakfast, not after CSI, and it's just great. So yeah, we accidentally kind of chuckled at Seth MacFarlane, and it is that kind of weird baggage that you find with a pop culture phenomena like this that you bring into it. Does that dent it for you, do you think, or can you rise above it?
A little bit. I mean, it has been a while since I watched it. Like I'm talking like 10 years maybe. But I watched it and I remembered every scene because it's beautifully done. It's a classic film, and it's not easy to forget. Do you know what I mean? But I felt like parts of it I was still seeing for the first time.
Yeah,
I looked slightly differently at the head screw. I can't remember his name, Captain something.
Captain something. Yeah,
Captain something.
What's his name?
He was. I've got his note.
Hayward. No, not
Captain.
Handley. There we go. Hadley.
Captain Hadley. Like slightly differently at him, like his arc and how he was perceived. And at one point, I mean, there's a lot of potential redemption stories in the Shawshank Redemption. Like it seemed like he was going to come back around, and then he really didn't. Like, he's the one that I think he's the one that pulls the trigger in the dark that kills Tommy, the prisoner, and it's just heartbreaking. And it's almost like there's a switch somewhere in the middle of the structure. There's the classic twist in the middle, and that entire sequence or set of sequences stretches right out to point of no return. All hope lost, and it's like the whole second half of the second act, and it's just great because you're just gripped with the whole thing. You're gripped the whole time. But I think coming back to it, I remembered every scene, but there were bits of it that I felt were new, which is a great thing for me.
I think it's one of these films that you do pick out different things. It's interesting you say that because I noticed that with Hadley as well. There's a subtlety and a nuance to that. I when I pictured him before, not that I often did, not that I often sit there and picture that character, but if my mind turned to that character in that film, then he's the straight down the middle kind of thing, and you do see there are echoes of something that I noticed on this occasion, and albeit self-serving and albeit sort of he's still very, very much that bad guy, but you do kind of get moments there where you think, okay, maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something there that may be redeemable about him. So it's interesting you noticed that as well. I also, for me this time around, I think I just was in awe of the structure of it and the way it kind of the way it delivers that theme of hope and the two kind of counterbalances of Andy and his hopeful arc and Red and his hopeful arc and kind of Red coming to finally be able to be hopeful again and Andy starting off hopeful and then kind of remaining hitting that low point but still clinging onto it and Red almost trying to pull him down. And I think we said it with The Godfather as well, and I think it's one of those things that is almost a prerequisite when we're talking about these great classics. There's not a gram of fat on this script. It is just it's all relevant, and it all plays out so nicely and so neatly in that way. And there's this deliberate feeling to it. And I feel like that structure, it just makes you feel safe, makes you feel comfortable. And just settles you in for the long haul. Did you find that?
Well, I think it's the way it holds you for the long haul is amazing, considering how long it covers. No, you're watching this friendship develop over 19 years, like between the two men, and it's quite rare to have. I mean, it's not a short film; it's 2 hours 20 or something. But it's not. It's quite rare to have that kind of thing, and it's really focused on that. Almost the entire time. I know we disappear out out of the prison with Brooks at one point, and the Andy obviously goes one way and Red goes another, and we do leave the prison. But it is just amazing how it holds on to you, and you see this friendship develop over a long time, and it's mostly through Red's eyes.
Yeah,
I know the narration just changed from point to point. Different people, but there's a lot of Morgan Freeman, and he became he became Morgan Freeman.
He became Morgan Freeman because of that.
Through this, he's the narrator now. His voice became the one that sort of people listen to, and it was the perfect voice for this, because it's a long, hard story that is filled with hope and despair in equal measures, and I just think it's just intricate how it's been put together, how you think it's going to go one way, then it goes another, but really, in a way, you always know where it's going. Maybe
sure.
Not at the end, but you kind of always have an idea where it's going, but it's the hope inside that makes you want to think it's going a different way.
I think there's something about it. I think there's a great lesson for screenwriters in here, is that there's that old phrase which is arrive late, leave early, and this film in every scene does this. You never see the start of a conversation. There's no occasion where it's like, hey there, man, how's it going? Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. So that rock hammer, it just doesn't happen. It is, though, actually, ironically, I think that's the one scene where maybe they do actually introduce themselves to one another. But my point being that that's it. If that is that's the only time. And everything else here, they get in late. And there's a great sequence where Tommy realizes that he has information that could exonerate Andy, and you go from him screwing up his test and throwing it in the bin, and then you cut to him in the wood shop with Red, and they have that conversation, which leads on from that. And again, you're coming in halfway through that conversation, and then Red looks up, and he has this realization then, and Red looks up and goes, "What?" And then you go through, suddenly you're then mid-conversation with Tommy sat and his Red and Andy watching, and then you jump again, before the end of that conversation, and Andy sat with the warden, and it goes on. And I think it poses questions and doesn't always offer up the answers in the way you would expect, and it's done in such a skillful way. And I think that it always has that forward momentum. You're all, as an audience, because it's a pretty confined space, isn't it? You're in a prison. You can't go that far, and so you're right for it to, and I think that's how they do it. I think it's that forward momentum is always with those kind of questions that aren't always answered straight away, and that is for screenwriters. I think for me as a screenwriter, I was sat there going, "Oh, that's great," because I hadn't noticed it before, and kind of, "Oh, that's so cool the way they do that."
I think the thought that there's no fat on it is, I mean, even like in the finale, you're cutting in between scenes. Like I think when he discovers, just before he throws the rock through, is it Rita Hay? No, it's not Rita Hayworth at that point, is it?
Raquel Welch, I think, by then,
throws the rock. We sort of, we don't see them go in there. I think you just sort of clip in, and there's something happening. He's pissed off, and then, oh look, there's a hole in the wall, and it's the way they've done it. It almost, because there's no fat on it, it almost makes you not think too much about how Andy's plan. So you've seen 20 years elapse in 2 hours 20 minutes, and you've learned everything about these men, but you didn't necessarily know what Andy was doing. So you find out that he spent 19 years with a tiny little hammer, digging out a tunnel. But then you start to wonder. I mean, or you could start to wonder, was the whole thing premeditated? Was everything premeditated? The fake bank accounts, the laundering, the smoking gun, all of that kind of stuff. But you don't. You kind of don't go there. It just kind of is, and it's like you've been taken through this story. It's all been put in the right place for you to see it, and you don't really question it. You don't necessarily need to know if Andy premeditated those things, or whether he slotted those in later on. Went, oh, this guy's a bit of an arsehole. I'll make sure I've got some dirt on him. But he could have decided that on day one. But you don't care. You don't care.
Yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't matter, and they do that. There's another occasion where they do that, where we go off with Brooks for a bit, and that's, I think, the other time when that voiceover is taken over. And it's only ever taken over with another voiceover when someone's reading a letter, I think, and because Andy's reading the letter as we see the Brooks montage going on, which is way shorter than I remember it being. I thought that was a big chunk of film, and I thought it was cut in and out. I thought we kind of went to Brooks and back again and things like that. But no, it's just like a 5-minute boom done. You know, a lovely kind of structured, almost short film in its own right. And but just immediately preceding that, you have this section with Andy beginning to send letters to the whoever is the district for funds to do with the library and things like that. And then you suddenly jump off and we see, you know, we go to Brooks, and then we come back and we've forgotten that he sent those letters, and we've forgotten that happened. And then suddenly, oh, there's books everywhere. And it's that same thing that you were talking about in terms of things being premeditated and it not mattering. I think the way this is done as a film, you get so swept up in the moment, you don't notice the story unfolding until you get to those moments like at the end where you see, you know, Raquel Welch, and you know, you think of Rita Hayworth and Marilyn Monroe, and then finally Raquel Welch, and you think of the evolving poster and what that means, and you think about, oh, you know, we've been off and we've seen Brooks, oh, but actually now we are seeing these books. You don't think about it until you think about it, and then suddenly it was inevitable, and you go, of course. And it's that I think it's that deftness of touch with this film, and whether that's screenwriting or whether that's editing or direction, or probably a mix of all of it, because this is a written and directed by Jobby, so you know, perhaps it's all in one there, but I think there's something so impressive about hiding the threads on the back, and then suddenly it becoming clear as you step back from the picture. I just think it's so neat.
Yeah, I think the it's probably a mixture of all of the ingredients that came to make this film. Like, I mean, some of them are mind blowing. It was a Stephen King novella, called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, and he I don't know if he got a credit, but he apparently co-wrote part of the screenplay.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
And Frank Darabont didn't have loads of films, but the ones that he's made have been pretty special. You can see the quality in what he does. You know, he's prolific as in what he does is good. You know, he's not necessarily prolific that he's made 500 films. But I mean, cinematography was Roger Deakins.
Yeah.
8 years into his Hollywood career, and to become Sir Roger Deakins, like multi-Oscar winning, like just those ingredients alone were just like phenomenal. And then the cast, I mean, everyone was fantastic. I mean, some of the guys were character actors, but they're damn good character actors. Like they're the ones that went on to feature in so many films that we know and love through from before in the 80s and then throughout the 90s and beyond. And I think, you know, the script is amazing, but does the cast, so is the crew, so is anyone who's involved with it creatively. It's like a bit of magic just happened. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's a perfect storm in that sense, but we would be remiss if we didn't try to critique in some way or another this what many think of as being the number one film of all time. And one of the things that I noticed on this occasion is that I think we actually just praised it a minute ago, but the passage of time, I feel, is occasionally missed a little bit. It's quite often it's characters sitting there sort of saying, well, I've been here for 20 years now. And then, you know, you'll see half an hour later, they go, God, can you believe it's 30 years? And they look the same. You know, it's that kind of thing. And you wouldn't know if they weren't telling you that it had been that a length of time. And I do sort of think the screenwriter in me is sort of sat there to go, okay, I mean, there's surely, because that's just exposition, isn't it? You know, that's an exposition dump just to go, yeah, it's been a long time. And I feel as though there could have been something, surely, you know, something they could have done physically to the actors maybe to make that. Is that something that you noticed or bothered you? I
think they put a bit of snow on the roof on, you know, a few of the guys, but
snow
you know,
on the roof.
It's just a slight dusting. But you know, I think scripts in the 90s did have more exposition than we would be comfortable with now. I mean, the way that and again, it's not necessarily exposition, but some of the more famous bits of dialogue have been used in comedy shows like Family Guy and stuff like that. You know, get busy living or get busy dying. Look, it's almost like hearing that now. I was almost wanting to laugh.
Yeah.
because I've heard it, so many times, and it's quotable. Some of it's a bit twee. Some of it's a bit expositional, but inside of the walls of the Shawshank prison, it works perfectly.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. I think. You're absolutely right. I think there's. I don't know. I think I noticed it, and it did bother me a wee bit. And I want to talk about voiceovers as well, because I've gone on record as being very vocal of my hatred of voiceovers, and so. But this is, as we said, is the voiceover. This is Morgan Freeman doing his thing, and I'm confused, Brad. I'm confused because I didn't hate it. I mean, how could I hate it? But I didn't. I thought it worked. I thought it added something, and I feel as though I'm questioning everything I've ever said on the subject now. But I feel like that's how you do voiceovers. That's how you do it. There are occasions where it's possibly a little heavy-handed, but again, exposition and things like that in 90s movies is fine. Maybe it's a little heavy-handed, but not too much. I mean, where do you fall on this kind of thing?
I've got an interesting relationship with voiceovers. I've written a TV pilot which was solely voiceover based, and I'd never done it before. So I got loads of advice from people I knew had written all kinds of things, and most of the time I was told it's a rod for your own back. I was like, really? But it's going to be cool. Like, we're going to get all these insights. It's not going to be exposition, I promise. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, but if you do it in one thing, if, for example, in a TV show, if you do it in one episode, you've got to do it in 100 potentially. Yeah. And, it can get hackneyed very, very quickly because an internal monologue of someone, how many times do you want to hear it before you can probably predict what they're going to say?
For sure.
So I think in this, because it's gone over 20 years, it's probably a nice tool to hook it onto because times change everything. Like things are changing over the times that are ticking away, the years that are ticking away in front of us. So I think that helps with the voiceover. I think from personal experience, I know that they can be a hard slug to get to work, but I think they got it to work in this.
I do. I think so much of it is that it's a lovely piece of writing as well. It's both poetic and kind of, but very quite utilitarian in places as well. It doesn't overdo it. It's not trying to be anything other than just this thing. And I think it's one of my favorite lines of dialogue in anything. I think it's Morgan Freeman. You're getting at the end of it, and he has this little speech, and then he just kind of goes, "Maybe I just miss my friend." And there's something about that. Maybe I just miss my friend. It just gets me. Just that idea of just, you just miss your friend. That's so upsetting, And I think that that's something that is really great about the voiceover in this, is that it feels very emotional. It feels very personal, and isn't kind of. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm sold on voiceovers again. Maybe this has changed my life. I doubt it, because I still have Dexter in the back of my mind that I will never be able to get over.
Your dog Passenger, he's there.
Yeah, he's always there. He's always there, grumbling away about what his father told him. God. But the only other thing, I mean, that for me that jumped out of me that I missed, and I thought I felt would have been a really nice element to have in there. When Tommy is shot, I don't think we ever see Andy's reaction to that. I don't think we see, because I think he's off in the hole at that point, and he's kind of off and away in doing his time in there. And I kind of I sat back a bit and thought, oh, okay, that would be because you spent a little bit of time there building up this thing and this relationship between these two, and then the relationship in terms of him as a tool for Andy's freedom as well, and then for him to just not react. He's got his own stuff going on, of course. He's been locked up for 2 months at that point, or whatever it is. But there is no kind of, they don't deal. I don't feel as though they deal with it in a major way. Perhaps that's
it was an interesting choice, wasn't it? It was very interesting how they choose to do that, but I almost think, because he's so calculated and it's so calm at times, you don't necessarily know what's going on until he's done it. because he doesn't want to reveal his hand ever.
Yeah.
He never really does. So it's almost like the death of Tommy and the warden saying, "No, I'm going to keep you here forever so I can cook my books." That sends him into, right, plan Z. Like, this is it. End game. I'm off, and I'm going to ruin everyone here. I'm going to absolutely destroy them to the point where the warden wants to blow his head off. And it's almost like he just becomes that. He becomes the tool of that. He's like, right, okay, that happened. He's devastated, so he now goes and risks his life to go and swim through, torrents of poo and come out smelling of roses on the other side. All that kind of stuff. Get to Zihuatanejo, get his cash from the bank, which is a great scene. Goes in as
so great.
Randall Stevens.
Yeah,
is like, he's just brilliant. But
underneath,
so
smug.
He looks amazing. But underneath, he's angry.
Yeah,
like he's angry, and he's getting redemption. He is like, he's destroying these people, and he does it. And it's almost, for me, that feels like his final reaction to what the warden does.
Yeah, that's a cool reading of it. Actually, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a really interesting way of looking at it. I think that the whole element of whether or not Andy is guilty is such an interesting one, because of course it is revealed with Tommy. I think is not quite midpoint, but around that sort of area. Actually, no, it must be later than that. But regardless, it's when Tommy has this revelation and all this, that, and the other, and it's revealed then that he really actually is innocent. And I don't think because this, I think, is difficult for us to know, having seen it before and rewatching it, whether or not what a new audience would feel going into that. Somebody watching down for the first time, do they know up to that point that Andy is definitely innocent? It feels as though the film wants you to be questioning it, and it feels as though it kind of has that, because you set up at the beginning with the trial and all this, that, and the other. So I think that's what it is. But it's a lovely touch. The repeated kind of everyone's innocent in here, and then them to sit there and go, oh, he really is innocent. It's a nice touch, I think.
Well, I think the fact that the audience question it along with everyone else in the film, it's just a masterstroke. I mean, it's the way that you feel when you find out he is innocent. I always question it for a second. And what I thought he did do it. Like I was
okay.
I kind of thought he did do it, and the film was making me fall in love with him, so I didn't care. That's what I thought the film was doing. And it's like, oh no, he is innocent. And then you're like, oh no, they've killed a man. Oh no, he's stuck. And it's it's great. It's great. So they use an assumed narrative. They present you with an assumed narrative, and you go with it. And then it's not that. They change it, but they don't. It's not a big rug pull. It's more like they just you're experiencing it. You know what I mean? And you're saying about the midpoint with the Tommy reveal. I don't think it's in the middle, but that's still their midpoint.
Yeah,
thing.
For sure.
That's their big midpoint twist. It's just a bit later on. I think.
It definitely, because the whole kind of intention and pace and everything changes around that. Because I think again, it's a clever thing that they do there, because I think we as the audience have accepted that they're in the prison and they're not getting out. We've seen Red be declined parole twice. We've seen other characters say things like, "Oh, I'm up for rejection, next week," and things like that. And so we've settled into this idea. Okay, no one's getting out of here. Andy's making the best of it. He's done this library. He's got the beers for the guys. He's done all this, that, and the other. He's making a good go of it. And I think that it does. Everything changes the moment you find out. Whoa! Oh, so there is a chance then. And because then it's hope. It's that hope is reignited. It's hope that you didn't know that you had for that character, that he might be able to get out through proper, decent means. And for that to be taken away in that brutal scene with Tommy being shot, it's a gut punch, I think, and it changes everything.
Yeah, I mean the fact it's the guards. I mean, earlier on in the film when Andy was getting those brutal attacks from the
The
sisters,
yeah.
there were sexually assaulting him regularly, and the guards letting it happen. They evidently knew what was going on, and then as soon as he presented himself as something they could use, they stopped that immediately. I mean, Boggs, he's just wrecked, and they're sent into another prison, and then no one touches him after that. And from that point onwards, it feels like they're building a relationship with the guards, and the guards are grateful for Andy's help. And then all of a sudden, they turn on him in the drop of a hat. Like literally, the warden goes no, and that's it. They kill Tommy, and they're all complicit in what's going on. I think it's quite interesting that they use hope constantly throughout it through Andy, even though he's the one that has it taken away from him regularly. Yeah. He's the one that talks about hope. He's the one that brings the hope. And evidently he is the one who had hope all the way through because of his 19-year tunnel plan to get to Watanabe. But then we see the antithesis of that in the other prisoners, particularly the lifers or the people who have been there decades and decades. So Brooks dying in the way that he does, he takes his own life because he can't integrate. And then the fact they funnel Red into the same halfway house and the same job, and there are a few moments where you're like, oh god,
for
that's
sure.
it. Red's going to go the same way that Brooks does, but it's Andy's hope that stops that happening. It's Andy's influence on him that stops him doing that, because he could very well have gone down that route that Brooks did without a second thought.
I mean, he says himself that he can't make it on the outside, and it is only the thought of him missing his friend and seeing his friend again, and the tin of cash and whatnot that really that does save him. That you're right, it's hope. Hope does save it, and I think it's laid out in such an impressive way that you don't, again, you just don't even notice it. You don't even notice that's what's happened, and then the moment you do notice it, you go, well, yes, of course. And it was always
that tin of cash scene was just so good. It's how he plays it. Well, he opens it, he gets the stuff, and then he pulls some money out, and he's like, he looks over the wall. It's just so good. He just plays it so well, like that whole thing.
You know what I loved as well? It really, really made me laugh this time around. The he pulls out the thing, because we all do this. When you get a card from someone, when you get and you get money when you're a kid or something in the post, and you've got the card and everything, you've got another envelope. If there's no one else around, if you're being watched, you read the card first. And you've got the money here, and you're like, oh yes, happy, but thank you very much, and then you open it. But if you're on your own, oh, how much money is that? Who's it from? Yeah. And I love that he did that. I love that he looked in the envelope, looked at the cash first. I thought it was because he's still a crook. He's been on the inside a long time. Like I thought that was a lovely character moment, and really nice and subtle. If you were gonna take some lessons from this for screenwriters, we talked about structure and things like that. If you were gonna take anything from this to say to new writers or someone coming up, what do you think the lessons of the Shawshank Redemption are for screenwriting?
So I think in the writing of it, he followed a formula. So structurally, he didn't mess around with genre. It was what it was. Mm-hmm. The dialogue can be slightly hammy at times, but it doesn't matter because it's being what it is. It's honest to itself. So the writing feels honest, so the story feels honest. So it's if you're going to write a story that is about something like this, stick to the plan. Like don't stray off and have spaceships or whatever. Do a genre mix or whatever. Anything like it is unashamedly, honestly what it's set out to be.
For sure, that's a perfect way of putting it. It is what it is and doesn't try to be anything else. And I think I think it's a huge lesson to take from writing something like this, because I think it's so tempting to try and do something different. Try and write it. When they were writing the Shawshank Redemption, they weren't writing with it being IMDb's #1 film of all time in the back of their mind. They were writing an honest story, and they were just writing what the story required. And I think that you can. It's very easy as a writer to kind of go, well, I want to write something. I want to write something, that really emotional, or I want to write something really classy, or really whatever it is. Just tell a story, and if you tell a story true to itself, then it'll all fall into place. It's a nice way of putting it. So the question, twofold. This question: does it deserve to hang out in the vaults of the script department? And as an add-on, does it deserve the number one spot on IMDb or any other list for that matter? What do you think?
It should totally be in the vault. I mean, it is, arguably the greatest film of all time. If we're going to have films in there, we should have those kinds of films. And yes, it's very good. And yes, Godfather 1 and 2 are also very good. But, there are some interesting choices in IMDb Top 100. I'd say the top 5 are pretty solid. And they're all pretty close. There is these things change now and again, so there isn't any. They might edge around each other, but I think it's been 11 years. I read that it's been number 1.
It has. I'm just pulling up the list now to get a look at that top 10. Shawshank is number 1, The Godfather number 2. The Dark Knight is 3, Godfather Part 2 is number 4, and 12 Angry Men at number 5, with Schindler's List, interestingly, coming up on 6th.
What was 10? I remember 10 was weird. What was 10?
10 is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which
is
that not? Well, okay, so 7 is Return of the King, 8 is Pulp Fiction, and 9 is The Fellowship of the Ring. And then after that, your not so beloved Forrest Gump comes in at number 11, which is quite interesting. But yeah,
I'm not dead inside. I promise you.
Yeah, I don't want to get into debates on. I think any one of those, that top 5 could realistically sit at number 1. And in fact, The Godfather and The Shawshank are both ranked at 9.2. If you're going to look at metrics and things like that, I mean, it's kind of all arbitrary anyway. It's an interesting conversation, but
yes.
I think that any one of them could realistically sit there. I don't know. I'd probably place The Godfather above Shawshank, and I think actually I'd probably place Schindler's List above Shawshank as well. But that's a conversation which I think we'll be having in a few weeks' time. Actually, I think we're going to cover Schindler's List in a few weeks' time, so we'll get to that maybe then. But so yeah, well, if we're happy with it in the vaults, that's the main thing.
It's totally going in there. It's always going to be in the top 5 of everyone's films. I think it should definitely be in the vault. Yeah, just make sure it doesn't go with a little rock hammer because it might get out.
That's true. We'll put it in its own safe behind a Bible quote, and we'll make sure there's no Rita Hayworths anywhere near it. Good. And then, will that make you happy? Is that going to keep it safe for you?
That sounds secure to me. Yeah,
that's great. That's so pleased. Interestingly, I know that John, who isn't with us today, is a little cold on the Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. So it might be interesting at some point to do a quick follow up to this, and just or maybe we just film John ranting about Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, John's reaction video to our Shawshank Rewatch video.
Great, yeah, I love it. Doctors react. I think that'd be fun. Yeah. I mean, yeah, great. I think we did it, Brad. I think it's a cool film, and I think it holds up. It's fun. It was fun to look at again through kind of the gaze of time to see it in a slightly different way. So yeah, I certainly enjoyed it this time around, and yeah, we'll put it in the vaults. It's going to be fine. Yes, excellent. Nice one. Thanks, man. That was fun. Next week we're going to be looking at The Shining. That's our next pick for our rewatch. So if you guys want to, if you dare brave The Shining, then go and check that one out, and then pop back along next week and we'll be having a conversation about that. Until then, thanks for watching. Feel free to go back and check out our other rewatch videos and various other things we've been doing on our podcast, and as well as everything else. Pop over to the website, thescriptdepartment.net. It's great. Make yourself at home. Maybe pull up a chair, listen to some stories. It's cool. It's a cool place. We like it, don't we, Brad? We think it's cool over there.
It's best scripts ever on there.
Best. On that note, thanks, man, and we'll see you guys another time. Take care.